Hello and welcome everyone. I am your host Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist. Today we just had a major earthquake strike. A magnitude 7.8 hit the southern Philippines, this being a reverse thrust earthquake. These are generally very destructive earthquakes. That is exactly what has happened today just in the past few hours. I'm reporting for you on this as live as soon as I can. We have a lot to go through today. I don't really know what is going to happen in today's live stream other than just me going through all the data that I have and then checking what's happening right now. We are having some aftershocks as well. So there's been 3 magnitude 6 plus aftershocks after this magnitude 7.8. The strongest of those thus far being a 6.4. This originally came in higher. The preliminary measurements, which are always more air prone because they're just the first glimpses that we're getting of this event, the first data. I had this clicking in over a magnitude 8, which is a megaquake. So once you get magnitude 8 or greater, you're at a megaquake. This is a 7.8 according to the USGS. The highest that I saw was 8.2. This is what's on the NOAA tsunami website. There may very well be a tsunami that's coming out from this, though there is not that much information on the tsunami, so hopefully we can get some information for you guys. But this is a big earthquake, the strongest yet of 2026, has just happened in the past 2 hours maximum. I think it's probably been about 90 minutes or so. And yeah, there's been quite a bit of destruction from this. We'll look at these videos more that I'm about to show you, but I'll just quickly show you them right now. Here we see a video of a collapse of a Jollibees. This is the southern part of the Philippines, right near the epicenter. Whole building went down. Not a good situation, and you know they love Jollibees out there, so not a good omen either as it relates to that. But clearly a big earthquake to get a building collapse. Here we see a video of a mall. And you see the side paneling start to come off. I mean, crazy shaking. The guy can't even stand up right there. So this has been a big shaker. Clearly a very, very powerful earthquake. Still basically getting a sense of what the heck is happening right now. But we do have some video coming out and some photos. Here we see a video of a pool sloshing from this earthquake. Often when you see these pool videos for an earthquake, it's just like a little bit. I mean, this thing's about to be empty in about 5 seconds. So this really gives you a sense of the power and the scale. And as the magnitude goes up, the shaking not only is stronger, but it's longer in duration, right? It's not just 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Like a magnitude 5.5 to 6 earthquake, maybe like 5, 10, 15 seconds maximum. This is clearly quite a bit longer than that. Let me get this video back on loop. Here we go. So, and then here we see a photo of a building that collapsed. It looks like this is a semi-residential, then I'm not sure if that says hall. But either way, lots of buildings coming down. I'm sure there's been casualties. Unfortunately, don't have any numbers for you on that. But just keep in mind, and every time I've done a video on a big earthquake, I always get a few people to like freak out. The initial estimates will always be much less than the actual death toll. Unfortunately, unless it's like a first world, and I don't even like to use those designations, but I think you understand what I mean. Like, let's say a big earthquake would strike San Francisco. You're going to get a lot of infrastructure damage and not that many casualties. But for Thailand, for example, last year, magnitude 7.7 that struck. This is Thailand, Burma, Myanmar, that whole zone. This is the 28th of March. Initial estimates were just like a few dozen people. And I was saying, guys, we have hundreds of people. It's going to be hundreds. And it was actually hundreds of people. I think it was actually more than 1,000 people, like 1,500 people. So we hope that's not the case. But in general, when you get these sort of big events in these locations, that is what we see. So we hope it's very minimal and just confined to property damage. You know, ideally there's no destruction or death, but that's not how the world works. So we just had a huge magnitude 7.8 earthquake, and we are still wondering about a tsunami. So we can go to our tsunami alert page here from NOAA. You see one of these initial estimates that they had, 8.2 there. USGS has come out saying it's a 7.8. And some of the other estimates, I can read them off really quick from some information sent to me by my moderator. Shout out to Mike. 8.0 magnitude from Geo Australia, 8.1 magnitude from GFC Germany, and then Indonesia's network had it at a 7.9. So that's the range. Basically 7.8 to 8.2. There is quite a big difference in terms of the overall energy and the amplitude of shaking from a 7.8 to an 8.2. But we're right in that range where it's basically a mega quake. And as someone that researches into high magnitude earthquakes and the effect of the sun on the earth, generally if we're looking to elucidate the connection between the sun and the earth as it relates to space weather and earthquakes, you're looking at magnitude 7.8 and greater. That's a pretty nice boundary for a quake that is big. So that's what happened today, and in fact we just had a G2 geomagnetic storm 2 days ago. We have another solar storm impact coming in within hours, definitely less than 24 hours. We have another solar storm impact coming in that's expected to trigger a strong geomagnetic storm. That did increase relativistic proton flux. So basically, to keep it simple, a whole bunch of particles hitting the earth from the sun, and there is a very strong statistical correlation with big earthquakes exactly like today and when you have these increases in proton flux. And the statistical correlation is offset by a day. So it's not that you have the proton storm and immediately have the earthquake. You have the protons come in, and then a day later, after the earth has been charged, there's a much higher likelihood of there being big earthquakes. This paper specifically, I'll link in the video description once the live stream's over, looks at these sort of giant earthquakes. And so it's exactly what has happened. And that's why I was warning everybody, we could very well have big volcanic activity, big earthquake activity. And we've been seeing big volcanic activity from Shiveluch volcano, from Sakurajima, Japan, a few other locations, and now we have the biggest earthquake of 2026. So it's still an advisory at this moment in time, as you can see. And if you look here at our alerts, they are showing that this tsunami could be 1 to 3 meters in height for the Philippines, and then 0.3 to 1 meters for Malaysia. So it's going to broadcast out pretty quickly. I don't know if there has been a tsunami yet or with the significance level of it, but even just like a 1/2 meter wave, that's 1.5 feet, right, for you Americans, can be quite destructive because the way it comes in, it's not like a normal wave on the beach. It's a mass of water that pushes in. And in addition to that, it can really sweep people off their feet. So the water goes out, people run out, and then it can really push them forward and then sweep them out because it's so fast. And just 1.5 feet of water for a lot of people, that's enough to take them off their feet, and now they're swimming and floating and all this stuff. So this could be a big deal. My gut intuition is telling me that this tsunami was, we dodged a bullet with the tsunami. That's what my gut's telling me, because I think if the tsunami had really been bad, I think we would have seen reports of this already come in, because it would have immediately hit a lot of these islands right here. But we don't, at this moment in time, know precisely what the situation is with the tsunami. We'll look through some data and hopefully get some information on that. I did pull up this National Data Buoy Center here, and we have this buoy right here, okay? And that's station 52405, and we don't see anything anomalous yet. But I don't know how up to date this is. This is just kind of the first thing I picked up. I wish there was a buoy in here, but they're everywhere else except there. And it's very possible that the tsunami would not have reached this buoy yet if there was one. We can go down here about the same distance away, and again, nothing anomalous being picked up by that buoy. So we don't have any like definitive data yet on the tsunami. But my gut intuition is telling me that we dodged a bullet on it, but we really don't know. Because the tsunami really depends on the depth and also the type of earthquake. So here we see the latest earthquakes via USGS. And we see that it's been more than just a 7.8 now. So there's our 7.8. This occurred at 23:37 Universal Time on the 7th. So for the Philippines, that would be the 8th. Okay? And it was outside, it was daytime. And maybe we'll even pull up an astro chart for this. But we have this right there, 7.8. USGS has it at 55.2 kilometers in depth. If that is accurate, then our tsunami risk is very low. That's too deep to generate a tsunami unless this was significantly more powerful. And even then, that would still be a muted response. To get a tsunami from an earthquake like this, because this is a reverse thrust earthquake, and we'll talk about that. Tsunamis are generated by these reverse thrust earthquakes where you have the ground like this and then part of it pushes up. And it's that sudden push up that now raises the water column and then shoots it out like this. So we did have a reverse thrust earthquake with only a very minor oblique component. The slope on that fault is about 45 degrees. So it's not a shallow reverse thrust like we get with Japan. Like we can get these really shallow reverse thrusts, super destructive magnitude 9s there. But it was a classic reverse thrust and a big one at 7.8. But we see these aftershocks now, 6.1, 6.0, 6.5. So that's 6.4 I mentioned at the beginning. That's actually now been upgraded to a 6.5. We see a magnitude 4.8 there, 5.8. This is our new area where seismic energy is really broadcasting out. And the entire Earth is shaking from this. Now, you're not going to feel this on the other side of the globe, but when you get a big earthquake like this, the entire planet rings like a bell, and for a good length of time, especially if there's aftershocks. So one thing to keep in mind, we'll probably touch on this more later, but just briefly, now that we've had this big earthquake here, a lot of stress is going out in all directions because these seismic waves induce, they're stressful and they do strain onto any faults that they pass through, and they also preferentially move through fault zones, right? They travel along fault planes. It is seismic energy transmits better through those pathways. So now that we have had this 7.8, expect there to be more activity in this region, okay? An interesting point about that is if we look at our latest earthquakes, this is all magnitude 7s going back to January 1st of 2020. So there's quite a few, okay? But you'll notice that if we go to our most recent, the 7.4 there in Japan up top, right? There's our 7.4, and then you see our 7.4 Indonesia there. So this is both in April. This is April 1st, this is April 20th, 7.4 Indonesia, 7.4 Japan. Right in between them, not exactly in the middle, but in between them is where we had our 7.8. So I think that's interesting. And then if you go back to February, we had our 7.2 there. So it's almost like this triangulation occurred, and boom, there's the 7.8. You can also include Vanuatu and Tonga here for some other big earthquakes, but still, this is fairly central to where we've been having all the activity recently. And one thing that I mentioned just over the past couple videos, it's a pretty minor thing that was occurring, but we were seeing this clustering of activity of magnitude 5s along the southern Pacific and for the Pacific plate. And so we were seeing some movement here with these spreading centers like Balleny Islands, a few other locations, and now we're seeing this part of the Pacific rupture once again. And this is the biggest earthquake since the 6.9 that struck in Chile. So bing, bing, just like that, boom, boom. Okay, so Let us look at our overview here for this earthquake and just kind of get a sense of what's happening. This is our did you feel it map, or like our intensity map rather. And we can put on our responses, but I don't think some people from the Philippines are reporting, not too many. We'll leave our 10-kilometer on, they're easier to find. But we see strong shaking basically being observed by these people. Here's our legend behind me. So you see that once you get to orange, you're at the 8th intensity level, okay? You have to get to red to get to 10. So that's really significant. If you're anywhere in the orange zone, this was a big earthquake. And we're seeing these responses obviously here for the southern Philippines, but also going up here to, I think that's Davao City, so a range of responses there. One person felt it only lightly, another person felt it strongly, and then another person here felt it really strongly. So it's good to look at these responses. We see another strong response up there, but in general, you see that this really was felt widely across the Philippines here, and also broadcasting out here even to bits of Indonesia. And to our moderator, if you know anyone that's just talking nonsense in the chat, just get rid of them. Don't even try to hassle with them today. There's too many people. Just FYI. You're doing a great job. Everyone keep it respectful in the chat. This is a serious situation. This is not a time to be just being stupid, okay? So we see these responses here, and let's go back to our, I think this is still, sometimes they have a higher resolution did you feel it response map, but I'm not seeing it for this one. But here's our shake map, and it shows kind of the same story, but I do like some of the shading on this. So you can see really a large zone there, and what we'll ultimately see from the USGS with this is they'll categorize the slip on this and how much of the fault ruptured, okay? So this is a big rupture, and I expect probably like 50, 100, 150 kilometers of fault have ruptured as a result of this, going down to the south and also a little bit to the north. Because if you go back to our latest earthquakes, we can see here our fault line. This is a strong subduction zone right here. And we've actually been talking, if you remember, we've been talking about the Philippine Sea Plate just for the past month or so, identifying this as a key area. Now the Philippines is always super active, okay? So keep that in mind, all right? It's good to keep that in mind. But we have been looking at the Philippine Sea Plate and talking about it, and now we get this big magnitude 7.8. So we had a big subduction event where you have this plate going underneath this plate here, and effectively this one, okay? This hand will be for the Philippine Sea Plate. This hand will be for the Philippines, all right? You had the Philippines rise up like this with this reverse thrust sequence like that. So boom, and then this plate all of a sudden sinking down, that one rising up over it, allowing for that plate to subduct underneath it. That generates these really big events. We can see that by going here and looking at our moment tensor plot, okay? This is how you categorize what type of earthquake it is. You can crunch the data on the waveforms and get a sense of it. Now there's two different solutions that you get with the moment tensor plot, and this one here, they're effectively the same. These, you have strike angles, you have dip angles for the fault, and then you have a rake. And the rake tells you whether it's going up or down. If it's positive, it's going up. If it's negative, a negative number, it's going down. And if it's 0 or 180, then you have it just sliding past each other. That's a strike slip event, okay? So you notice that this isn't 0, 180. In fact, both these numbers are about 10 away from 90. 90 being a perfect move upwards with very little lateral motion. But because there is a little deviation on both of these solutions, this thing went up and there was a little bit of oblique movement. Now you notice that the strike angles are almost exactly either 360 or 180. So basically north-south. Now, what this means is that the two solutions here are showing that it reverse thrusted up in either a little bit to the left or to the right. And that'll be for more data analysis to effectively elucidate what happened. But as of right now, we know that there was a very minor slip component to this, and it was almost completely this compressional reverse thrust fault motion. You see that both of our solutions have a slope of around 45 degrees. If we average them, it's about 45 degrees, which means that the fault was halfway between 0 and 190, right? So just like this, thrust it up. So this is a significant event, and we'll get a little bit more information on this as time comes in, and also as these aftershocks continue to come in. Every single aftershock providing more information on the fault, because now you have multiple moment tensor plots to look at. These, you start to really get a sense of what's happening. So this 6.8 here, for example, or 6.5 rather, we don't have the moment tensor plot for it yet, but that will come in eventually. Maybe the 6.1 has one. That one is a bit older, not yet there either. So that's something that if you know how to read these and you're interested in that, you can look at this more. But we're likely to get more aftershocks. Certainly we're going to get, there's a whole bunch of magnitude 3s and 2s that are popping off, okay? USGS is only showing, for the global network, generally magnitude 4.5 or greater. And not always are you getting all the magnitude 4.5s. Now in the States, you'll get all the lower magnitude earthquakes, because that's where they're primarily focused. And we have these seismic networks in the States. But if you go to some of the other catalogs, like the Philippines, the seismic catalog being maintained by the Filipino geologist, they'll have all those magnitude 3s and 2s and 1s are happening. So a huge amount of energy being released right now from this earthquake. Let's actually figure out our earthquake calculator to see what a 7.8 compares, because some people it's a little difficult. I mean, I think just in general, it's difficult to get a sense of a 7.8 earthquake or just any earthquake in terms of like the energy of it. So here we see, we typed in magnitude 7.8. We see it's equivalent to 7.5 million tons. Yeah. 7.5 million metric tons of TNT, or 500 Hiroshima bombs, or the equivalent to the largest nuclear test ever, the Tsar bomb, which was 1960, I believe. Or no, it was 62, I think. It was in early 60s. 0.13 Tsar bombs. But if we relate it to Krakatoa, the energy for this is equivalent to 3%. If we equate this to the largest earthquake ever, it's just, what? 0.2%. So that shows you, that's a magnitude 6.5, by the way. So this shows you just how much these Earth events can scale in their energy, right? It's not necessarily linear, it can be exponential. So we're happy it's just a magnitude 7.8, because the Philippines can get bigger earthquakes. They can get mags like mag 8s, mag 8.5s, like a mag 9 is probably possible. I'm sure it's happened. So ideally we wouldn't get any 7.8s or 7.5s or whatever, but this could be a lot worse. That's the point I'm making. This could be a lot worse. Let's go back to our tsunami map here. Let's just update this page to see what it says. There may be some new information here. Not yet, tsunami advisory. To our moderator, if you have any information on the tsunami, shoot me a text message. I have my phone here, and I'll read that. That way I get that communication channel through you. And yeah, we don't have anything with our buoy center. We'll check that later. But I do want to show you this some more. So this is interesting, okay? Here we have again our earthquakes for the Philippines going back to the year 2000, January 1st. And look at how often they get big quakes, okay? So we see, let me move over further. We see this magnitude 7 there. That's that's in 2021. Another 7.1 there, 2021. Here we have a magnitude 7, 2022. Magnitude 7.6, 2023. Magnitude 7.1, 2024. Magnitude 7.4, this is 10/10/2025. This is last year. Here we have our 7.1 ultra deep. Look at that, 629 kilometers down. Ultra deep 7.1 on the 22nd of February this year. And then here we see our 7.8. So every single year, except for 2020 itself, for this time frame, because this is January 1st, 2020, all the way up to now. Basically every single year, and well, this was in January 21st, so, you know, we've been getting a magnitude 7 in the Philippines. And look at how many have happened right in this area. And here's some others here, right? Here we see these ones there that are a little close to Indonesia, 2023. Of course, this one occurred just a few months ago, a couple months ago. But this now really almost like filling in this zone of seismic activity that we've been having. So this is a good sign, you could say, as it relates to the chance of there being a bigger earthquake, because if this had been completely devoid of earthquakes, and these are, you know, strong magnitude 7 plus quakes, then the strain could build up and get to a magnitude 8 or greater and rupture all this simultaneously. The larger earthquake, the larger the fault rupture in general. You need a bigger fault rupture to get these bigger events. We're talking like actual movement of the plates being 3 meters, 5 meters. I mean, it can even be more than that. These can be huge plate movements. So that's really very significant. So the fact that, okay, and Maud is saying we just had another large earthquake right now. You're gonna have to explain that, dude. I'll check my earthquake app on my phone right now because it'll be faster than USGS. USGS takes a little bit of time to update, so I'm not sure what you mean by that. Okay. The initial wave arrivals are expected to continue hitting the coastlines over a multi-hour window. Tsunami waves travel in a series, meaning the first wave is rarely the largest or the most dangerous. Power grids did automatically get tripped off in the Sarangani province to protect the electrical infrastructure. There's been telecom lag as a result. And this earthquake, again, USGS is saying it's at 55.2 kilometers down, but there is going to be some disturbance to the water going out, though I don't think this will be significant in any way for Hawaii or the Americas, okay? But you are just in general, from a big quake like this, again, the entire earth is shaking and reverberating, and you're getting this movement to water and displacement and everything. So it's very, very significant. Okay, Maud's checking on this potential new quake. I'm not sure something's happening there. That would be crazy. It's possible. It could really be crazy. But we're already getting aftershocks from this 6.5 being the biggest. Just a quick note on the math for aftershocks. Well, A, this could be a foreshock. It's a very low risk in percentage. It's less than probably 2%. This could be a foreshock, like 1-2% chance of that. The fact that we are seeing aftershocks now is a good indication that this is the main event. And the largest aftershock will typically be 1 magnitude less. So that would be a 6.8. Now this 6.5 may cover the whole situation, but there could be up to another magnitude 7 that follows. I guess there's a few possibilities with earthquakes. The earth is very dynamic. Sometimes you get foreshocks, And this 7.8 could be a foreshock to something bigger in the magnitude 8.5 or greater range. That's a 1 to 2% probability, if that. But that does happen. Sometimes you get big double sequences where you get a boom boom and they're about the same magnitude. A good example of that is Turkey. Back in 2023, it was a magnitude 7.8 and 7.5. Another historic example goes back to around 1806 when you had double megaquakes strike Mongolia, like rapid fire back to back. So that is possible, but that's also quite rare. Probably even more so rare, like rarer than the foreshock possibility. Most likely, 95%, I would say, is that this is the main shock and these are aftershocks, and we could get up to a magnitude 7 aftershock, but more likely 6.8 or less. And in fact, this could be the main aftershock right there. We'll find out. So a lot happening right now, as you can tell. I did report on this recently that we had a pre-earthquake anomaly. Let me pull that up. It was pretty minor, but we did have it. I did give you the lowdown on that. I track all these things for this reason. In my live stream yesterday, here's some more photos of the damage, by the way. This is from Susan posting this, and a friend of hers sent her these photos. So, and we already saw some of these. That's the Jolly Bee. And here's a Honda dealership, I guess. So, yeah, not good. But I did post about this earthquake anomaly. Let me pull it up really quick for you. This comes one day before we have a planetary conjunction between Venus and Jupiter. Talked about that. And this also, here it is. And this also is coming just hours before we have a pretty significant solar storm impact, and also just a couple days after we just had a solar storm impact that triggered a G2 geomagnetic storm. Okay, yeah, everything seems to be fine as it relates to this other earthquake. So here's the pre-earthquake signal. It's about 15 minutes at 24 hertz, which is right in the pre-earthquake signal zone. So to explain this really simply, these bands right here are known as Schumann resonances. These are Earth's naturally resonant energy fields generated intrinsically by the Earth. Earth has a resonance. What does that mean? It's just a natural reverberation of energy. Think like you hit a gong and it just reverberates for a while. Or sometimes you'll like enter into a room and you can say something, it'll kind of echo for a while because you hit that resonance point. Earth has that. The fundamental resonance is 7.8 hertz. That's the foundational mode. But we have these other frequencies at 14, 20, 26, 33, 39, 45. And if we see anomalies generally from 20 to 30 hertz, those have been connected many times now to big earthquakes. And so we see that this date there is the 4th of June, UTC +7, which is, I think, a similar time code to the Philippines. It's pretty close to it. So we did have about 15 minutes of an anomalous increase in the power at 24 hertz, which is a classic pre-earthquake signal. And this came in just about maximum 4 days before this 7.8 struck. Now, if we go back here, you see what our earthquakes have looked like recently, okay? So this is our last 90 days. I'll turn myself off really quick. Oh, not that. And we see that we've been having lower seismic activity for the past 45 days or so. We did have this little period right there. This culminated with the 6.9 in Chile. But in general, excluding these 3 high days, this is rated as high for the activity level. This is all earthquakes magnitude 4 and greater. And the way that they add up is that if you have a big earthquake, that's like by far, not the majority, the super majority, like 99% of the energy of all of the day will be in that one big quake. Case in point, this 7.8. But we see we had 3 high days. The rest of them are all moderate to low. Boom. Boom shakalaka, there is our 7.8. So current seismic activity level is extreme as of right now, and you see that this is higher than all the earthquakes that we've had over the past 90 days. And here's the seismic burst that we had back in March and April, as you can see, these being the two nearby quakes, right? I talked about earlier. You see the two quakes in April. But this could be the beginning of a new seismic burst. We hope it's not. It could be. The space weather has been very active. I specifically have been talking about this and kind of letting people know this is what we look for, because there's a whole bunch of research connecting space weather and solar activity to earthquakes, all right? And the level of correlations and connections found kind of varies between who's doing the research and the methods that you're using and what they're specifically looking at. For example, right now we're looking at real-time solar wind, past 3 days. So you can look at the solar wind speed. You can look at the density of the solar wind. You can look at the phi angle, and like whether you're crossing a solar sector boundary, and you can look at the temperature. And I got this kind of like hair. You can look at all these different things, okay? And they all show different levels of correlation or no correlation, inverse correlation, whatever. But if you watch this like we do, in general, we see that we have more earthquake and volcanic activity pop off when there's just more activity happening with the sun. Case in point is the magnitude 7.7 that struck Myanmar last year. I mentioned that earlier, how it's probably going to be similar to this earthquake with the destructive and the cost of life, etc. That we had a huge 1.1 X flare from the side of the sun the same day, and there was a seismic burst and everything. So it almost always lines up in some way. So the fact that we just got out of a G2 geomagnetic storm here, Earth got charged up as a result. We then had a solar storm launch out. We can look at that very clearly right here. Look at this giant coronal mass ejection that launched out. This is from a plasma filament that exploded on the sun from sunspot group 4461 there. That is about to impact us. So not only did we have this G2 storm, we had this happen yesterday, 24 hours ago, and now we have another solar storm impact coming in, which we can look at the space weather model for right here. So here's the space weather model for this, and NOAA is estimating that this comes in middle of the day on the 8th, right here. And so they show mostly going to the southeast. We're looking top down on the solar system. That's the sun. This is the Earth. This is our vertical view, south-north. But we're right in the middle of two solar impacts, two geostorms, and every single solar flare charges up the ionosphere. A geostorm, this solar storm impact charges up the ionosphere. That global electric circuit drives a lot of activity around the globe, and right in the middle of it, you get the 7.8. So pretty wild. And this is why in yesterday's live stream, it's like we could have big volcanic or earthquake activity. That's exactly what happened. We could have more. This could be the beginning of a wave, a seismic burst. I hope not, but it's certainly possible. We do have a Venus-Jupiter conjunction coming up, and planetary geometry is connected into all of this. They all connect in at various levels of significance and influence. And so just in general, when you see a lot of them like lumping in together at the same time, that's when you can be more reasonably assured that we're probably going to have something. And that's what's happening right now. It's not just one factor, it's many factors. Here we see our low energy protons and electrons. They have been going up, indicating that we have this new solar storm coming in. And if we go to our proton flux here, we see that while this never hit an S1 rating, which would be a S1 radiation storm, we did get our protons to increase. So there was an increase in these high energy particles hitting Earth versus from that solar flare I just showed versus 2 days ago, 3 days ago. Now the highest that this got, it went up to about 1. So some of these values there, like 1.29. Normal, as you can see, is right around 0.2 or even 0.15. So if you get to 1, you're going up about 6, 7x, and to get there, you need to get to a value of 10. So this is still showing some of these protons going up, not only just like doubling, but like 500%, 700%. So pretty crazy. And we could be seeing just in general more activity coming after this. Now, some more messages here from Ahmad. Just want to check these to see what's up. Um, he's saying that 2 volcanoes in Indonesia went off in the last 25 minutes. Don't know if they were big, but close to the earthquake, it says. Okay, so we can look that up. We'll go to Volcano Discovery. They update everybody on this. Shout out to them. They do a great job with their website, except for this pop-up. It's awful. I hope maybe they're watching. They'll just remove that pop-up. No one likes pop-ups on websites. But let's see, latest volcanic activity updates. I'm not sure how super up-to-date this is. They may have a map for us. Let's go to this map here. We see all the earthquakes are popping off. See, they'll have some of these other earthquakes in there. So if we turn on our satellite view, there's our 7.8, but we also see these mag 4.2, 4.9. We have a proper earthquake swarm happening right now, as you can see. So nearby volcanoes would be Rong volcano, and then also Karangetan volcano says it's erupting right now at this moment in time. Let's give this a look. That didn't give us what we wanted. Let's just go to live data, see what this is saying. Okay, that is saying it's erupting right now. Ibu volcano says it's erupting. Quite a few nearby. Canaloan volcano supposedly is erupting right now. Mayon volcano erupting. And then Taal volcano with minor activity. So in general, the Philippines are very active, but it looks like these volcanoes also are seemingly responding to this. And all this we just need more time for me to verify this. So if you subscribe to the channel, I'll keep you up to date on all of this. Earthquake activity, volcanic activity, solar activity, planetary alignments, everything and more. I release videos almost daily. I've been your host, Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist. I'm not done yet, just letting you know. Smash that subscribe button, click that like button, get this out to more people. Prayers for the Philippines. Let's do a search on x.com and see what's come in recently from this. Philippines. I think that should simply do it if we just type in Philippines and click latest here to see kind of what we get. There's a Jollibee going down. Whew. Okay, what's this? Footage of Bula, General Santos, Philippines, following a massive earthquake just hours ago. Okay, doesn't look like that's a tsunami video. That's good. Yeah, I don't think there's been much of a tsunami from this, thankfully. Looks like the airport right now is having a suspension. They're not doing any flights as a result of this earthquake. Or is this old? They're calling it magnitude 7. It's much bigger than magnitude 7 though. Here's a big crack in a building. Right, this is a big high rise. So this now requires like a full evacuation. May have to do a demolition on this. Foundations are cracked. It's game over. Yeah, we're really going to have a lot more information on this. Some people love the Philippines for other reasons. We're going to have a lot more information on this in the next 24 hours. But what we do know is that buildings have come down. It's been a big shaker. Tons of aftershocks are striking in the magnitude 6 range. We're getting them. This is no joke, as you can see. So, and there will be casualties, and hopefully it's not much, but it could be dozens, could be hundreds. So we'll just have to wait and find out. Okay. Yeah, days like this are are tough. Days like this are tough. So we'll do a question and answer right now. Well, here's one right now that came in from Missing in Action Down Under. Friend stuck under a roof with a phone in the Philippines. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Okay, and Living Bee, I will do that, no problem. The earthquake here, 7.8 south of Davao, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, city, but right here at the very southern tip. And, you know, spreading seismic energy all the way up here, but really being felt strongly on this island, this being a reverse thrust earthquake. Not that much oblique motion to it, like sliding past each other, almost all of it going straight up. The USGS has this depth at 55.2 kilometers down. That would be deep enough to not cause too many problems as it relates to a tsunami, but we're also going to do a tsunami simulation on this. And here's some of the footage as I pull up the tsunami simulator. Here's some of the footage of the building collapses that came in from this earthquake. Originally came in at a magnitude 8, magnitude 8.1, has been since revised to a 7.8. Here we see this video here of the mall. The tsunami simulator I use, I'm not sure, I think this is it right here. Okay, we got it. And here's the video of the pool, the sloshing, clearly a big earthquake. And a photo here of a building that collapsed. So let us put in our tsunami for our tsunami simulator, which is right here. Okay. And we are going to take this guy and drag it right there to the southern part of the Philippines. And we're going to drag our bubble down to a 7.8, as close as we can get. And as you see, it's going out. I think this can make it a little faster there. And let's make sure I'm like really precise on that. I think I can relocate that a little bit more precisely. I get right there. Okay. So strong tsunami waves going down here. Those should have hit by now, I would think. But all these waves there are going to take quite some time to sweep across the Pacific. I hope we don't. I hope we didn't get this, where you just get sloshing in this this basically like pretty confined area. That it looks like the amplitudes there are quite strong. But I don't think there's been much of tsunami risk from this, thank God. That's quite good. It could have been much worse. It could have been shallower, it could have been a lot stronger. Could have been shallower, could have been a lot stronger. But you see how long it takes for these waves to go across. Hawaii isn't getting any of this wave action. It'll be very minor, but it'll still exist until about 10 hours afterwards. But for people right here, it's pretty much instantaneous. We go back to the beginning. We see the strong wave there, right, hitting after about not even an hour. So, yeah, if the fact that we did not get reports of big waves coming in, or at least I haven't seen them, and they're not on X from what we're seeing, which is typically the fastest place to look, is a good sign that there wasn't much of a tsunami. But big earthquakes hitting the Philippines. We did have a magnitude 6.1 up here earlier today. This was the strongest earthquake of the day until that 7.8. This being fairly normal location to get magnitude 6 earthquakes. This is the site of the magnitude 8.8 megaquake last year. But that was a little bit of an increase in seismicity, but nothing really of note. Definitely not something to like make a video on. But then we got our 7.8 here. And it looks like they're updating it now to a category 8. So it's an orange pager. So estimated fatalities, 40% that it's from 10 to 100, 35% chance that it's 100 to 1,000, and 9% chance based off of just their algorithm here that it's more than 1,000. So we hope it's as few as possible, but it's going to be one of these two categories there, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's this one. With all the building collapses, you think these buildings are empty? Like, no, people love Jollibees. They're at the Jollibees. One Jollibee's collapsing is already, you're at like maybe 15 people. I mean, so we'll have to wait and see, but we won't get that information until like really kind of concretely until a week from now. All right, so just keep in mind, any numbers that start coming in, they're going to continuously get revised. That's how it works. You get a few reports, you get dozens, and then eventually about a week later, you kind of know the actual estimate of economic losses, the destruction, fatalities, and more. We see the other side there, the estimated economic losses. We're looking at anywhere from 100 million to $1 billion US in damage for the Philippines based off of the USGS algorithm, potentially even more than that. But in general, they're showing that this is an orange pager and that the shaking was very, very strong. Here, actually severe. They categorize 8 as severe. So 7 is very strong, 8 is severe. So very severe shaking that struck southern part of the Philippines. Thankfully, it did decrease down to more moderate shaking further out, but this was a severe earthquake that struck the Philippines just now. Okay, so we've had some questions come in from Superthanks. We'll do some questions from the audience too. I'll just keep you up to date basically on what's happening. But let's go through some of these right now. I'll answer them as best I can. Tammy, thank you so much. And Jason, thank you as well. Stacy, thank you for the super thanks. And Tammy, again, maybe a different Tammy. Same Tammy, thank you. Grush, thank you for the super thanks. If you guys want, you can look more into this idea. Bazooka with a super thanks. Thanks for explaining the tensor plot and the nature of this plate slip. Looks like all USGS earthquakes 2.5 or greater in the last 2 hours have been at this location. Exactly right. Right now, global seismicity is being dominated by this magnitude 7.8 and aftershock for the Philippines. The man, let's play. And so thank you for that very generous super thanks, Bazooka. You've really been here on it for a few live streams now. It's great to see. Love it. The man, let's play with, will the magnitude 7.8 Philippine quake trigger tsunami surges in NWS zones, or does the Farallon escarpment completely filter that energy? Yeah, I wouldn't be concerned about tsunami risk for North America, so I think it's fine. We're not seeing really any big reports of tsunamis for the Philippines and surrounding islands, so and Hawaii would be the next one to be concerned about. North America should be fine. I would be shocked based off of the magnitude. It really need to be higher and also shallower. So, will this with this mega quake, will it create another at an opposite or other part of the world? Thank you for all you do. Thank you. Yeah, good question. Let's check out our tunnel, our antipode to this, and our best location. Maybe type in Santos City. That should be close enough. Let's see if it pops up here. So another one of these factors, I mentioned these different factors. That's not what we want. Maybe that'll pop up correctly this time. Okay. So another one of these factors is that often, and we saw this a ton in 2025, but just in general, often When you have a big earthquake, you then get activity at the antipode. Sometimes the antipodal activity is beforehand, kind of giving you a heads up. Often it's on the other side. A great example of this is last year when we had the magnitude 8.8 megaquake there, and then we had all this activity at the antipode down in Drake Passage. Now, it's not the exact antipode. What is the antipode? It's the exact opposite side of the Earth. So this antipodal effect isn't usually exactly opposite. There seems to be a deflection around the inner core because how seismic waves actually propagate through the core, the center of the planet, is that they deviate around the inner and outer core. So it kind of bends a little bit. But looking at this antipode, it takes us right to the center of Brazil. And so this is very close to the subduction zone here in South America. So we did have that 6.9 being the last big earthquake. If we go back to our latest quakes here, let's put this on 30 days, significant worldwide, okay? And we see our 6.9 here will show up right there. There's our 6.9, pretty darn close to the exact antipode, right, to the 7.8. So that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about, is that you often see this ping pong activity within the Earth. So we could see another ping back. And as I've been talking about in some recent videos, for the past 2-3 years, there has been definitely a reduction in seismic activity for South America as compared to the Western Pacific. This is the Ring of Fire. This is where we get the majority of seismic activity, the majority of volcanic activity. They kind of need to balance out because the Pacific plate is moving and determining, you know, the whole Pacific plate moves as one. There can be stress and strain imbalances, but it's one contiguous plate. So when you get a lot of movement here in the Western Pacific with the Pacific plate, eventually you have to balance it out. And so we now have seen this 6.9 there for Chile, antipodal to this one, the 7.8, we could see a ping back. We could see magnitude 7 plus activity for South America in the days, weeks, and months ahead. We'll see. This is an actively developing situation right now. Thank you, George, for the super thanks. And Tris, thank you for the super thanks. Schulze, George Fellows, thank you for that. We covered that a long time ago. Nylene, thank you so much. And yeah, believe it too, there was a large eruption at Sakurajima yesterday. And it's been ongoing from what I've heard today as well. So I can just show you one of the videos of this. I'll just have to scroll down a little bit. I reposted a video that someone took. Here it is. So a fairly significant eruption from Sakurajima. They had one of the biggest eruptions in 8 years. Just this year, I think about less than a month ago. So, and that's where we had some big activity earthquake-wise for the past 6 months, Japan. So you see how this is all kind of connected together. So thank you for that super thanks. And Kimberly, thank you so much. Animate, thank you for that. And yes, MIA, thank you so much. 2 dots. Heart C47, interesting question. How will this affect the Bismarck Sea volcano? If you don't know, the biggest volcanic eruption right now, 2026, is happening here near Papua New Guinea. Right in this location here. The central Bismarck Sea, right on this ridge. They're calling it the Titan Ridge. I'm not sure the pronunciation is. I heard someone say it's supposed to be Teton Ridge, and then it's spelled like Titan, T-I-T-A-N. So I'm like, I don't know what the heck, what you call this volcano. And everyone gets so mad about pronunciation, which I understand, but at the same time, give a guy a break. So the central Bismarck Sea volcano right here is the biggest volcanic eruption right now of 2026. It is still pumping, and it's located fairly close by. So that 7.8, the way that could affect is just simply the pressure waves hitting all this magma is ascending, degassing, and exploding underwater, it could cause that eruption to intensify or accelerate. I don't think it would necessarily cause it to just go completely nuclear, but we do see this long connection historically between big earthquakes, big volcanic eruptions, and more. So that certainly doesn't help the situation, but I don't think it sends it into critical over, like a critical meltdown, let's say. We hope not. TT is asking, how long would it take to hit Brazil? So we're not going to have they have some visualizations for this, but the energy of these seismic waves propagates out, and it'll actually reconverge on the other side of the globe, which is where Brazil will be. It can create what's known as a ghost quake, where a seismograph there may pick up like an earthquake, even though there was none. It was because the seismic energy wrapped around and then re-amplified as the waves constructed together. It's positive, what's it called? Positive interference. So like, boom, they construct together. So that's happening. It's probably already happened for that to, that positive ghost quake to hit Brazil has already happened. And Two Dots Cove, thank you for the super thanks. Okay, we'll get back to our normal chat and see what's, constructive interference. Yeah, let's see if anyone's saying anything here in the chat that I should be aware of. And yeah, it doesn't look like we're going to get a big tsunami, thank God. Just a big quake, a big shaker. I'm sending prayers for all people in the Philippines, especially those affected areas and people who sustain injuries. Let it be so. Namaste. God bless. Amen. All the things. Yeah, that would, we really need that. Julie B again, let's send prayers to them. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. Is Gulf of Thailand affected? Zone in here. Gulf of Thailand should be fine. I don't think there's much of a tsunami concern at this point. If that changes, I'll let you know. I mean, let's go back to our NOAA. Let's do this again, this final update here. Let's see what they say. Tsunami threat. They've changed it from advisory to threat, which is interesting. But they haven't updated the heights or anything. So it's still showing the same heights, but they are showing these locations here. For the Philippines, 1 to 3 meter waves. For Malaysia in this area, as you're referencing, it said Gulf of Thailand, 0.3 to 1 meters. So, but I don't think there's been much of a tsunami. That's what it seems based off everything that we've been watching and tracking. And checking the buoys again, we'll do that. Let's see what the buoys say. We have 2 buoy feeds from nearby. Now we wish we had some right in this whole quake zone, but we don't. So we have this one here, 52405. And we're not seeing anything particularly unusual with it. It looks normal as of right now. It does show this red there. I don't know what that's about. But it does look normal. And if we go to our other one down here, let's see what this one shows. And this one's still showing normal too. So, but maybe they haven't updated. It's hard to say. And ones that are flashing are tsunami stations in event modes. So we see a few here are doing this, jumping around and flashing. So here's something. I'm not sure what that is. See, and I can't really move these around. Maybe I'll move to the other side for you. I don't know what this is about. I think the red line may indicate the tsunami in effect. Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah, the red line's indicating the tsunami threat. And because that was, again, if we look here, it was effectively 23:37 Universal Time. So right around midnight Universal Time. And so this is all in Universal Time. They're showing that red bar right there at the turn of the day, UTC. So that's what the red line's for. As of right now, though, these stations are picking up pretty normal signatures from what I can tell. Yeah, so that's good. So yeah, that's the buoy data. Question from Jay Dreamer. Aloha, I'm new here. Do you see the eruptions and records being set as an omen of something bigger on the way? Thank you. I mean, I am not a doomsday person, though I recognize that if you want to truly understand what's happening on this earth, you have to look into catastrophes. I mean, so much of like the actual geology and the planet that we live on now has been shaped and transformed by catastrophes, like giant impacts and variations in Earth's orbit that led to dramatic cooling, ice ages, things of this nature. So if you're not studying catastrophes and incorporating that into your understanding, then you're not going to get the full sense of what's happening. At the same time, what happens is a lot of people research into catastrophes. This is what I'm generally seeing with like other people online that talk about this stuff. It seems that when people start researching into catastrophes, they get brainwashed or something into thinking that the world's going to end in 5, 10, 20 years. I don't know what it is, this phenomena. Maybe it's a way for them to get like publicity and have like a livelihood or something, but it is a thing. So I don't see any reason why we have the end of the world coming. I've never said that before, right? But big Earth events are serious business, as this exactly shows us. Now, are these signs of something bigger coming? Like a really big? It's all within normal, you could say. If we start to get signs that are really indicating that, then I'll let you know. I mean, I do think it's possible we get a big volcanic eruption. We already have it with Hunga Tonga. I do think it's possible that we get an even bigger one in the next 5, 10 years due to a variety of factors that I've discussed in a recent video, actually a few recent videos. But it's definitely not like guaranteed or imminent. It's just more likely. This is due to Gleisberg cycles and solar activity and a variety of things. So yeah, kind of an answer to your question. I hope that answers it for you, or at least gives you some idea as to where I am, but I don't think any of these things are guaranteed. We have been seeing a lot of asteroids come in and more of these like fireballs and meteors, so we do seem to be in a thicker debris stream. I am a little worried about there maybe being something bigger out there that hits us unexpectedly. We do have Apophis in 2029. You know, NASA said that there's no chance that that's going to hit us. I mean, I personally haven't done the calculations at the telescope. I don't necessarily doubt them. But when it comes to some giant rock hurtling through space that's going to pass closer than our geosynchronous satellites, you know, I think it's good to be a little worried about that. It shouldn't like ruin every single day of your life until it passes or hits, which they say is not going to happen. But yeah, this is a wake-up call in general. So it's important to check this out. And here's a question here. I'll see if I can find it. I just scrolled past it. But basically, the converse said, oh, here it is. Yeah. Why would they tell us if something big is going to hit? I mean, see, that's the thing. That's true. Like, if there was to be a big impact, you're not going to find out. Now, there are so many amateur astronomers out there that could take these measurements themselves and post that data that I think if that was the case, the open source community would get that information out there pretty quickly. So keep that in mind. But if you were to have something big, yeah, they're not going to tell you. At least I don't think they would. Maybe someone who actually has the best interest of people would, but thank you, Una, for the very generous super thanks. It's much appreciated. Leafbinder mentioning that a tornado warning just went off here, south central Missouri. Okay, so at this point, it seems that we've covered basically everything that we can cover from this. I'm not someone just to sit here, talk endlessly, just to drive views. We are going to make a difference, an impact. We are going to do a sound healing for the people of the Philippines. So a collective prayer, meditation, sound healing. You know, everyone has their own belief systems. Some of you may be like, that does nothing, but certainly I believe that it does something, and the more people participate, the more that it does, in my opinion, in my belief. And I know a lot of other people believe this too, and I don't discount the power of belief, because the power of belief is what has helped us accomplish everything great in this world. You know, our discovery of different continents and our exploration of outer space and more. So we are going to do a live sound healing for the Philippines right now. I hope you join me. Let me get my stuff and we will get started. We are going to do something positive for the situation as much as we can. Because if we're not, then what are we doing? I mean, providing information is great, but I think really the higher consciousness perspective is how can we help as well? And if you're not into it, then just leave. That's fine. So please find a comfortable position if you can, and we want to form a collective resonance, holding in our hearts and our mind's eye, just a feeling, a frequency of peace, love, healing for all those affected by this devastating earthquake that has struck the Philippines. Buildings collapse, fatalities and more. A very unfortunate situation. Almost certainly the main event, but there could be more aftershocks, but hopefully not that destructive. But you know, magnitude 6 striking after there's already foundational problems or cracks in walls can be a big deal. So this is still a very active and dangerous situation for those affected by this. So again, just holding in your heart that frequency of, that feeling of compassion, love, and just radiating healing and comforting vibes. In some aspects, that may be the most useful thing. Remember that we are all one human family here on this planet, all connected together in ways known and in many ways still unknown. An event like this ripples across the collective consciousness. And so while the beautiful people of the Philippines are at ground zero, you yourself, wherever you may be, could be feeling this energy yourself, and the angst of it. I mean, I know when the magnitude 6 recently struck Hawaii, I was sleeping when it happened, but that night, just a few hours after it occurred, while I was still sleeping, I had a dream of this earthquake striking, and I felt the people experiencing the shaking and more. So we are connected in n equals 1 from my experience, anecdotal, but we are connected in more ways than we know. And this is something for all of us to transmute and process, to send our prayers of love and healing to those affected. And we hope to God that this is all it is and there isn't a stronger earthquake to follow. Just a small humble prayer from me and from all of us to those affected by this. Dear God, please help the people of the Philippines who have been affected by this earthquake, whether it's very physically with the destruction of buildings or their homes or important infrastructure, or with their health in terms of injuries. Rest in peace to all those who are victims of this earthquake. They are now in your domain and blessed. And we do thank you for bringing us together, though under less than desirable circumstances, reminding us that we are all connected together under God in your image, and that we have a responsibility to remember that we are one family here on this planet, one planet in the universe, and that we really need to be united in much stronger ways than we currently are. And please keep the people in the Philippines and all over the world safe, specifically where this earthquake epicenter was. We pray to you that this was just what it was and not a foreshock to something bigger. We pray that the aftershocks are minimal and don't cause further destruction, injuries, or fatalities. And we thank you for sparing the Philippines and surrounding islands of a majorly destructive tsunami and also of a bigger earthquake, and that you've been releasing this energy in magnitude 7+ quakes, but not with magnitude 8+ quakes, which are much more destructive over the recent years. So our hearts go out to everyone affected by this from around the world. Thank you so much. Amen. So thank you everybody for joining in today. That is your report on what's happening. More aftershocks are rolling in. There is a tsunami threat, but seems to, in general, have been minor. But we won't really get good information on this until 24 hours from now, kind of like once all is said and done. But the big risk right now is that you could get more magnitude 6 earthquakes to strike, causing further damage. So we hope that this 6.5 here is the strongest aftershock of the bunch. It's possible, but with a 7.8, typically it'd be a little stronger than 6.5. So we hope for the best. I will keep you up to date on everything here on my channel. This is what I do. When I got the notification of the earthquake, thankfully I checked my phone. I just got to the gym, and I don't check my phone at the gym. In fact, I met someone who watches the channel at the gym. I've met 2 people now in 2 days, just in public, saying, "Hey, dude, I love your work," which is pretty cool. But because I met this guy and he recommended a book to me, I went to go buy the book. I turned my phone on, I got the notification, immediately biked back home and jumped on the live stream. So that's kind of my ethos. You can see it in action. I jump on this and report on it for you as soon as I can with accuracy, open-minded, looking at all the different things. We have this solar storm impact coming in. We have a lot of sunspots on the sun. We just got out of a geomagnetic storm. We have another one coming up. So the Earth is very energized right now. So it's not necessarily a surprise that this happened. We hope that this is it for the foreseeable future, but just keep in mind that we've been having big volcanic activity, big earthquake activity, big space weather and solar activity. And we have in general, big planetary activity right now as well, with all the outer planets in a very rare, like multi-thousand year configuration. So this summer probably is going to be hot and spicy. So if you want to stay up to date on it, get a sense of what's happening, where, everything, I'm your guy, Stefan Burns, your Cosmic Bro. Thank you all for your support, for your love, for your prayers for the Philippines. I'll be back with more, and I'll also keep you updated in between videos on my X account at Stefan Burns Geo. So check that out if you are on that platform and you want to stay up to date in between. So wishing you all well. Please take care of yourselves. Even if you were in the Philippines, you may be feeling this in certain psychic ways, I guess you can say. Some people are very clued in to the energies of the earth, the cosmos, and more. So if you need to, make sure you rest, relax, do some grounding. And we do have the solar storm impact coming in. So that will affect all of us energetically going into the next week of June. So I'll keep you up to date on all of it. Have a great day. See you all in the next video.